Are we on the air?
Ruh-roh. What's up, guys? We are back today in the shop and working on this Tatum Black Widow. This thing's got a we're putting Holley on it. This is the Holley Terminator X Max. So it was missing a few parts. We ordered the 3.5-inch display screen for it. We're going to mount that right up here and wire in a fuel pump relay, a fan relay, and a couple other things that it needs to get this thing going. We've already got the harness on the motor. We got a fuel pressure transducer on here so we can see the fuel pressure. And yeah, guys, we're going to get this thing finished wired up. So guys, I said this was the Terminator X Max. That's just the wiring, book. It's the same. This is actually the Terminator X. So the difference between the Terminator X and the X Max is that the Terminator X does not have trans control. The Terminator X Max does. And for a do-it-yourself guy, I think this is the ultimate system. I think the cost on this thing's like $9.99, and that comes with the harness, the computer, comes with the display screen, which is down there. It comes with a wideband O2 sensor, and pretty much everything you need to make an LS run. It's going to ask you a couple questions in the screen, which we'll get to later. You answer those questions, and it loads a bass tune, and you can fire it right up. So you don't have to be a real genius to get this thing running and going. There's a couple wires you got to hook up and add some relays. But other than that, man, this thing's a pretty good system. So, all right, guys. So we pulled the harness out back here so we could get to a few things. There's 3 wires that pop out right here, and they're for the fuel pump, the ignition switch, and the tack wire. So I go ahead and pull these out and then rake hem them up, and we'll run them right along with this harness, because those relays are going to go right up by where the ECU is. So I can actually, if I wanted to cut this tape, I could actually just unwrap this and put them inside. But that's the only thing about the Holley harness that leaves a little something to be desired, is the way they wrap it. When I do my Chevelle, I'm doing the Holley. I'm going to unwrap this whole thing. I'm going to rake hem I'll unpin everything and I'll rake hem the whole harness. But other than that, it's a really nice setup. So we got the wires we needed wrapped up and rake hemmed, and we're going to go ahead and tuck this harness back underneath and get it back underneath here so we can get the ECU mounted over here. We're going to clean this area off, mount the ECU, and then we'll route the harness up through here and then get it plugged in. All right, so because this car had a Mendiola 2D in it and we put an S4 in it, and this has got a LS bell housing on it, the starter is going to be on the other side. We've got to change a bunch of wiring down here, and I'm going to do that now, but I wanted to show you guys some of the common things that we see. I mean, this is a cool car, full-bodied Tatum car, but whoever wired this car should be shot. I'm pulling out massive amounts of house wire with wire nuts on it, and I don't know about you guys, but you do not wire a car with house wire. And they also had like 0 gauge ran from the battery to the starter, which is way overkill. We're going to replace this with a 4 gauge. Just doesn't need it, and this won't reach, and I can't extend it all the way to the starter now because it's on this side. So yeah, guys, we're tearing apart a bunch of shit here, and excuse my language, just to make the alternator and starter and stuff all work together again. So we'll do it right. We'll cover it all with rake hem, do it up real nice, tie wrap it all, and we'll get it done. We're still working. All right, so you can see there's some sort of a method to my madness here. I've got the ECU mounted. I've got the harness plugged in. I've got the battery cable plugged in. Somebody tried doing this before the car came to us, and they added an extra wire to the Holley power wire there, and they ran it all the way up front, which is good because I'm going to need another 12-volt source for my relays. Where is it? There it is. I'm going to need another 12-volt source for my relays for the fuel pump and the fans. So kind of cool that they did that. It keeps me from having to run it. So I'm gonna start by getting all this tie wrapped and cleaned up. As you can see here, someone wired this car and they ran these wires over the sway bar. It should be under. So I'm gonna see what I can do about fixing that too. So we're moving forward. All right, so another little update here, guys. Like I showed you earlier, we got the ECU mounted. We're kind of trying to make heads or tails of what wiring that was already here. We got the fuel pump hooked up. The fans are hooked up. I just need to get the relays for those. These are the trigger wires for that and the ignition. But just in about 5 minutes or so here, we're ready to hook the Holley up and get the screen lit up and see what it does. In the meantime, we tucked up the harness, got it all tie wrapped up underneath here, and then we ran everything underneath the sway bar. For some reason, I don't know why, there was a bunch of stuff ran above the sway bar. And when you do that and then you put this seat in, you can see how close the seat sits to the sway bar. It would have pinched everything between there and the sway bar. So we got it all pushed underneath, tie wrapped up, and I'm gonna keep moving forward. We got the kind of got some of the wiring figured out. There was a fuse missing in the harness, and the display wasn't lighting up. So we're gonna go ahead and walk around here and flip this thing on and see what we get. All right, there it is. So she's ready to go. I got to go pick up some relays and wire up the relays, and then this thing will be ready to program and fire up. The Holley is really, guys, it's really that easy. You really just answer a bunch of questions, tell it what injectors it has, tell it whether or not it's got a power adder, and this thing should fire right up. So we're going to take off for the time being. We're going to go pick up the relays we need and a couple other parts for the blue car, and we're going to get that thing done as well. So what's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. We are back in the shop again today, working on this TATUM. This is a TATUM Black Widow, and you know what? I think you guys have already seen a bunch of this car in the video already, but we're back at it again today. We've got the Holley Terminator X finished up and installed. Don't mind all this messy wiring kind of over here. This is what we're working on here. We got Terminator X mounted. I got a couple relays installed for the fan and the fuel pump. We got the dash display mounted up there. I got it hanging out because I have the SD card out of it right now. We have to update the firmware for the display screen to communicate with the Holley management. So we're gonna go ahead and get that firmware updated. I've got my laptop out here and the SD card out. We're gonna get that firmware updated and then get it installed and get ready to load the tune on this thing. We are still waiting for the headers to come back from coating and a couple other things, but I can at least get the tune loaded and get it ready to, you know, fire up. And then we've also got a lot of progress done on our twin turbo Honda car. Let's go check that thing out. Walk over here in the shop. So Wayne, our wiring guy's been hard at it. He's pretty much got everything done here. Everything's wired up. We're gonna hook up the fans and stuff tomorrow when the fuse box comes. And then later on today, I'm going to put the intake manifold and the injectors in. And I'm also gonna load a tune on this thing today and get it ready for first fire up. As you can see, most of the wiring's pretty much done. And yeah, this thing's gonna be ready to go this week as well. And then we'll nuke the wiring out on that car, get it finished up and out of here as well. And then we'll be bringing my car in here to do the front arms and the shock mounts. So we're back over here now. We're gonna get the firmware updated on the Terminator X so we can get this thing fired up. All right, so we got the firmware updated. We forgot to really cover all of that, but basically what you do is you take the SD card out of the screen, put it in your reader, you select all the Holley files, you delete everything that's off of this card except for your tune files. So you take your tune, put it over on the desktop, delete everything else that's on the SD card, and then you go to holley.com, you download the latest firmware, and then extract the files. And then basically what you do is just cut and paste all of this and drop it right back onto the SD card. Then take your tune file, throw it back in the folder where it belongs, and then you stick it right back in the side of your display screen, flip the ignition on, it'll do an auto update, and it's done. I've already got the dash set up the way we want it. We've got oil pressure, fuel pressure, battery voltage, throttle position, fans, coolant temp, and tach. So it's got everything that we need right there on the dash. So we're not going to need any of these gauges. And we use the sending unit holes to run all the Holley sensors. So kind of cool little setup. It's only 3.5 inches. I know they make bigger ones, and they do have a software update where you can run the bigger dash with the Terminator X Max, which I'll be doing in my Chevelle. So this car's going to be ready. I already went through the setup wizard. It's ready to fire up. But we'll go ahead and go through that again and show you guys. So we're going to hit the home button. And if you have a Holley, let me get the camera a little closer so you guys see what I'm doing. So you're going to go to Wizards, GCF Wizard, and then it's going to ask you what type of injection. We're running multi-point fuel injection. And it's going to ask you what kind of motor you have. We have a GMLS. Next. It's got 8 cylinders. Next. GM and LS and LT firing order. Next. How many cubic inches? We're going to go to liters. I believe this is a 6.2 liter. So we're going to go to 6. I lost a little pencil that goes with this thing. It comes with a little pencil for you to touch it. It's on the workbench here somewhere. So 6.2 liters. Next. Target idle speed. We're going to swing that up to about 950 RPMs. Hit next. Camshaft specs. So here's your, it's below 235 degrees, above 235 to 260, and above 260. I really don't know what cam's in this motor. I don't know the specs on it. We're going to stick with below 235. This is a gray sensor, so it's a 58 tooth. Crank sensor. We'll hit the next button, and we're going to set the base fuel pressure to 60 psi. You can do 43 or 60. This is a boosted application. We're going to stick with 60. And then the injectors, they're sniper injectors, and they're 100 pound-hour. So we're going to snip the sniper 100 pound-hour injectors. And if you go, let's go back. With this Holley setup, there is OEM, Excel, other brands. You can put in your own information. It has all the OEM injectors. So if you're just doing a basic LS setup, it's got LS3, 5.3. It's got all your injector part numbers right there. So we're using Sniper, 100 pound-hour, power adder type. So nitrous, turbo, or supercharged. This is supercharged. Next, what kind of map sensor? We're running the GM 2.5 bar map sensor. It's the 195, this part number here. That's the one we have on the motor. So this is where things get kind of tricky. You got to kind of know what's going on with it. Wide open ignition timing at 0 psi. We're going to set that to like 12 degrees just to be safe. We're just doing a startup calibration here. We're not going to do no crazy, boost pulls or anything. Next, timing and retard per pound of boost. So basically what that first one was, is this is the base timing. So we set the base timing at 12 degrees at wide open throttle. So next, it's going to ask you how much timing you want to pull per pound of boost. We're just going to leave it at 12 pounds across the board, or 12 degrees, just because, like I said, this is just going to be a startup tune. We're not getting into the specifics of how much boost or timing we want it to pull per pound. That can all be done on the dyno. Wide open target, AFR. Again, we're not going to make any wide open throttle pulls. We're just going to leave that alone. And then here's the AFR offset. So basically what you're doing is setting your target air fuel ratio as it goes through the boost. We're just going to leave all that alone. And then there's our base tune right there. And you go ahead and hit start. It loads it. Once it's done loading, it's going to tell you to switch the ignition off. Hit OK. Operation completed. Finish. Ignition off. Back on. Fuel pump cycles. And this thing's ready to hit the key. And that's literally how easy it is to go through the screen and set up a Holley Terminator X. Really, really simple. Especially if it's naturally aspirated. It's even simpler than that. It doesn't have any of those boost settings that you have to, talk about. And then you literally click the key, start the car, and you go drive. And so that's what we're gonna do tomorrow after Joe sets up the fuel lines and gets the rest of the fuel system, and the header should be installed tomorrow as well. So we'll be back on this car again tomorrow, and we're gonna show you guys the first fire up. So stick around and we'll be back. All right, everybody, well, I did it again. As I'm sitting here editing this video, I realized that I didn't shoot an outro again. So anyways, we're gonna get this Tatum car fired up tomorrow, so make sure you guys stick around for the next episode when we do the first fire up on it. And again, I wanna thank everybody for the support, all the comments, all the messages you guys have been sending me. It's totally awesome. I love the feedback. So once again, guys, give us a like and a subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.